What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, I've been in the Boneyard. There are multiple movies called Boneyard or The Boneyard, so this is the 2024 version of this movie. You'll know it because it has Mel Gibson, 50 Cent, or 50 Cent, Brian Van Holt, and Nora Zehetner, who I'm just kind of happy she's still working. I liked her as an actress. She did some TV stuff back in the day, and I kind of wonder where she went. So I'm happy that she's still being cast. Also, Brian Van Holt is a pretty decent actor too, and I'm kind of glad they're still acting. This isn't a complete dumpster fire of a movie. So it just doesn't have audio description. I watched this on Tubi. This is where Mel Gibson movies go, by the way. Now the once and future king is now relegated to Tubi for what are essentially video on demand premieres that then get offloaded to the fast channel. Anyway, so you can watch this, right? It doesn't have audio description, so if you're blind or low vision, I wouldn't recommend it. That's why I did this for you, was sit there and tell you, could you follow it? It's a serial killer murder mystery thriller thing. So, you know how, like, oftentimes there's always, like, people, like, lurking in the shadows in these movies, and then you get, like, that knowing smile, and, like, you're supposed to kind of, like, figure out, like, as things are progressing, like, ooh, I don't know. Oh my God, is he the bad guy? I don't know. Like, clues come out. We'd be missing those. We'd be missing all the non-verbal cues. I'm not saying that, like, 50 Cent is necessarily, like, a great non-verbal cue person, but I was actually quite surprised with his performance in here, just, like, vocally. Like, the way that he was navigating the lines, I didn't hate it. He's been acting long enough now and having to read enough dialogue and enough lines. I haven't seen him. I don't even know what the last time was I saw 50 Cent in a movie. I probably wasn't he in Expendables 4? I feel like he was. But that movie didn't work for like a multitude of reasons. I think maybe he was in that. Yeah, he's gotten better, so it's a lot more believable than some of his earlier work when like he was actually trying to play himself and he couldn't even do that. Um, Gibson, I didn't even recognize. Part of the reason I know the cast because I had to IMDb it because I was like, who's the lead in this? It's like I feel like I kind of recognize the voice, but I can't place it. And I was like, that's Mel Gibson. That's what Mel Gibson sounds like nowadays. Oh my God. Like, time has not been on his side. This guy used to be, one of the sexiest men on the planet, and I think he definitely won that title at some point before everything. I know, children, we have to take you back to a simpler time, when Mel Gibson was a matinee idol, when he was the sort of like the Hugh Jackman of his time, the Aussie, that had come over and it was pretty, a little swarthy, a little outbackish, you know. Mad Max films happened, and then he jumped into the Lethal Weapon franchise, and that sort of took him off, just skyrocketed, and then he was in sort of a bunch of he did a bunch of things. I mean, he was in comedies, he was in dramas, he was in action movies, he directed, he starred, he had a really successful career. Unfortunately, he was also an alcoholic and was having domestic problems that ended up bleeding out into the media. Otherwise, I don't think his career actually petered out. I think he petered out, to be honest. His Passion of the Christ was a huge box office success. You look at it now and you're like, well, but it was a huge box office. Like, it was the number one, I believe it was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time when it came out. It might still, no, I think it's been passed by Deadpool, but Um, so it's and Joker, actually. I think, yeah, I think it definitely lost its footing. I think it's been passed a couple times, but yeah, it was a big thing back then. Uh and uh, people watched his movies still, and it wasn't until later when there was a couple things that led to us being like, I don't know if we can work with him anymore. Um, and then when he tried to come back in, people did stand up for him because he was the kind of guy that stood up for a lot of people. One of the reasons I still watch Mel Gibson movies is because without him, we wouldn't have Robert Downey Jr. He was the first person to give Robert Downey Jr. work when Robert Downey Jr. was trying to come back for the second time. He had already had a comeback, but it turned out he wasn't actually okay yet. And then he bombed out again, and he was uninsurable. And Mel Gibson put him in a movie. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of people have stood by him, is because he used to stand by a lot of them. So, like, I've heard Whoopi Goldberg defend him over the years, and a couple other people. So that's why he still continues to get work. I know what his views are. I'm not totally defending Mel Gibson and saying that everything that he did was right, but um, do more than just, I don't know, watch a TikTok on Mel Gibson from somebody who didn't live the last 40 years of Mel Gibson's career. So, uh, this is all right. It's not great. I mean, I was following it and I was like, well, this is just kind of a generic cop procedural about a serial killer that doesn't really ever hit a peak. It doesn't really feel stylish, but it's decent acted enough. I didn't find. I thought he was doing a decent job. I actually thought 50 Cent was doing a decent job, especially for 50 Cent. Brian Van Holt and Nora Zetner, in the two roles that they come up in, they're both fine. After that, everybody else is like, I don't know who you are. I don't know who the director is. It supposedly this is like based on a real thing, and maybe the serial killer's still out there. I don't know. Ooh, doesn't that add mystery to it? It's like the Blair Witch Project. Maybe they died. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're just actors. I don't know. So, yeah, it's one of those just sort of like time wasters. Like, if you just really like this genre, I guess, but it doesn't have audio description. So I'm like talking to sighted people now. I'm talking to sighted. There's such like a small window. I would be talking to like sighted people who want to watch this, or blind people who don't care whether or not they have audio description, who just really want to watch, I don't know, a Mel Gibson movie or love serial killer dramas. I don't know. Like, it's you're the Venn diagram here where the intersection is very, very small, and like they're like, does it intersect? Do these circles actually overlap? I don't. You have to get like a microscope to like try to look at this Venn diagram. Um, so to the two of you out there who this film seems to cater to, kudos. You know, it's on Tubi. You don't have to spend any money on it. That's the good thing. You have to watch some commercials, but you don't have to um, actually spend money on Boneyard. So it takes kind of the guilt factor out of it, and you're like, I don't know. I haven't been reviewing enough Tubi movies also, so I'm trying to make a more concerted effort because they're a streaming service that is sort of stagnated in terms of audio description growth. Like, they pick up a lot of new movies, but they're not putting audio description on them. Like, they've had, since they debuted, they've had about the same amount of audio description that they had when they launched. It's like they're trying to maintain a minimum amount of audio description. I'm like, that's not the point. You're supposed to be growing your library. Anyway, so, and I always see films on there where I'm like, that has audio description, that has audio description, that has audio description, but they don't have it. So, Yeah, and I'm just gonna start calling out Tubi in 2025. I guess this is gonna bleed out. This is definitely 2025 review of a 24 movie. So we're onwards and upwards. But I didn't hate this. I just didn't have audio description, and it is the kind of movie where you have mysteries and details, and you're trying to uncover clues, and you're trying to be like, trying to figure out along with Mel Gibson, like who could it be? What's going on here? Even in a movie where you're like, I don't know, I'm not really that interested, but you still want to know. And I can't because it has no accessibility. So I've had worse watches in 2024, and there have been worse movies in 2024. To be honest, comparatively, I was thinking this while I was watching the movie too. In terms of plot and in terms of acting and in terms of competency in filmmaking, a very similar movie that I think did get a little bit of theatrical release because we seem to like Russell Crowe a little bit more was Sleeping Dogs. I think this is a little bit better than Sleeping Dogs. That's my hot take. Trying to judge one movie with no audio description against another movie with no audio description, I would put this above Sleeping Dogs. But like below Knox Goes Away, you know? There you go. Definitely. So there you go, Mel. I can't wait to see what you do with that god-awful looking airplane movie. Flight Risk. No rules, no pilot, no whatever it is. I'm just like, I don't care. Anyway, he used to make really good movies. That's it. Thanks, Boneyard. I'm gonna give it a floating grade of a C minus, meaning it could be a C, could be a D plus. I don't see this. I think this would be rotten for me. I don't see this going fresh. I could be missing out on something. I don't mind standing up for a movie that nobody else likes if I firmly believe there's a reason to. But the audio description is keeping me in just sort of this. I just think it's kind of an average cop drama movie. So I don't think it quite deserves the hate that it's getting. And I think honestly a lot of the hate that it gets is because of who's in it, which is not entirely fair. Just don't watch the movie. Like, you don't have to watch a Mel Gibson or 50 Cent movie. Like, that's your choice. I do stuff like this all the time because I think somebody else might want to, and I'm just putting the opinion out there. I'm willing to sit through these people's movies, whether I like them or not, and get through it. So, there you go, Boneyard. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.